This year, the British Legion celebrates 90 years of service to the men and women of the armed forces and to their families. And during that time, the poppy has become the enduring symbol of remembrance. This is one of the very first poppies to emerge from the Legion's workshop back in the 1920s. It's simple and fragile, and yet a strong statement that we will always remember. In a few moments, Her Majesty the Queen will join us here at the Royal Albert Hall as we mark a special year for the British Legion at the Festival of Remembrance. Your Majesty, Your Royal Highnesses, ladies and gentlemen, in the 12 months since last year's festival, 44 members of the British Armed Forces have lost their lives. Others have suffered life-changing injuries. This year, the Royal British Legion marks 90 years of supporting veterans and their families. 90 years from the Somme to Helmand province. It is now laying the groundwork for the next 90 years and beyond. Much of that responsibility, of course, lies with the Legion's workers throughout the United Kingdom. So would you please welcome the national and branch standards of the Royal British Legion, Royal British Legion Scotland, and representatives of the ex-service and civilian associations.
The Union flag bearer is John Grimes. He's followed into the Albert Hall by the National Standard bearer David Brown, and we have 17-year-old John Thornhill, the Youth Section National Standard bearer. Strong presence of cadets, 14,000 Sea Cadets represented, 47,000 Army Cadets, and 900 squadrons of the RAF's Cadet Force. And here we have the 109 standard bearers from the branches, the people who do all the hard work up and down the country. And they provide support for people in local communities and, of course, a social life, a meeting place for members to get together. Lieutenant Colonel Graham Jones, in his final year as Senior Director of Music, part of a very important team of people, including Garrison Sergeant Major Bill Mott, who sets and expects the highest standards of all of those taking part. Among the ex-service associations this year, we have the War Widows Association, represented by Debbie Bowles, who works for the British Legion. It is the 40th anniversary of the founding of the War Widows Association. That was back in 1971. And also with us tonight, the Association of Jewish Ex-Servicemen and Women, represented by Leslie Sutton, who's 87.
My husband is Major John Cresswell, and he is in 29 Commando. The choir was set up 6 months ago, and it's for wives and girlfriends, mothers and daughters of families of deployed units, and it was set up by Gareth Malone. It's been an absolute godsend to us while the men are away. Each rehearsal that we have, you look forward to that date, so you've got something else to think about. You get to sing, and all your emotion comes out.
At the Festival of Remembrance, we're singing Wherever You Are, and it's been composed by Paul Mealer, and he's took lyrics from letters that we've wrote, and he's tried to put them together in a song that's really going to represent what we're about, and about the boys coming home, and that's what we want to say to them. While Tom's been away, I've tried to write every day.
Letters are really important to us because you're out there and you've been working hard, and you know that there's an influx of letters due in soon, so you see the helo come in, landing with the mail bags, and you think, oh, I hope I've got a letter.
The tour has been a huge challenge. When the incidents have happened, they've come out of nowhere in many senses. We have enjoyed success out there, but it's been tempered naturally by the sad losses that we've taken. In terms of maintaining morale, letters are essential. That reminder of home.
John came home 2 weeks ago, and it was wonderful. The children were counting down the days and the hours, and you know, you go through sort of a mixture of emotions. It's excitement, it's nerves, it's relief.
You're waiting for 7 months for that one day to come, and it's so long to wait for one day. And it's just so exciting, like, and it doesn't matter how long you've been together, every time I go to pick him up, I get butterflies.
I hope that with this song and these beautiful words, we are able to capture that emotion of what it's like when you're away from the person you love the most. For example, the lines, wherever you are, my heart will keep you safe, my love will build a bridge of light across both time and space. I mean, it doesn't get better than that.
Sitting in the Albert Hall listening to her sing, it's going to make me feel really proud, definitely.
At this festival, we remember all those who have been called to make personal sacrifice in the service of our nation, including the ultimate sacrifice. We stand shoulder to shoulder with all who serve. We will care for those who suffer, comfort the lonely, and give support to all in need. Holding high this torch of remembrance, we go forward, committed to strive for peace and justice for all people.
Well, the challenge for the British Legion today is to be as relevant to the armed forces community as it was back in 1921. In those early years, its resources were tested to the limit as the economy collapsed and millions were unemployed. In fact, the jobless total for 1921 was the highest on record. Sharp reductions in public spending were enforced to ward off inflation, and the big problem for many countries then, as it is today, was debt. Vast sums had been borrowed to pay for the Great War, in which 6 million Britons had been mobilised. But as the 20s gave way to the 30s, a degree of economic prosperity returned, and the music of that time reflects the more upbeat mood. Here to give us a taste of that age are the Royal Air Force Squadronaires, and in his first ever appearance at this festival, Sir Cliff Richard.
Well, I've got you under my skin. Yeah, I've got you deep in the heart of me. So deep in my heart, you're really a part of me. Yeah, I've got you under my skin. Well, I tried so not to give in. Yeah, I said to myself, this affair never can go so well. But why should I try to resist when, darling, I know so well that I've got you under my skin. Well, I'd sacrifice anything, come what might, for the sake of having you near, in spite of a warning voice that comes in the night, and it repeats and repeats in my ear. Don't you know, little fool, you're never gonna win. Use your mentality, wake up to reality. But each time I do, just the thought of you makes me stop before I begin, 'cause I've got you under my skin. Shna-na, shna-na, shna-na. Shna-na-na-na-na, shoo-bee. Shoo-dee-doo, shoo-dee-doo-wee. Yeah, I've got you under my skin. Well, I'd sacrifice anything, come what might, for the sake of having you near, in spite of a warning voice that comes in the night, and it keeps on repeating in my ear. Don't you know, little fool, you never can win. Use your mentality, wake up to reality. But each time I do, just the thought of you makes me stop before I begin. I got you under my skin. I got you under my skin. Here I've got you, baby, under my skin. Ooh, shibbity-doo, shibbity-doo.
Now, in the past year, the charity Combat Stress has helped more than 1,400 servicemen and women suffering from depression or anxiety or a phobia or post-traumatic stress disorder. Current caseload is more than 4,500, including more than 200 Afghanistan veterans and more than 500 Iraq veterans. And these are problems, of course, which can affect an entire network of family and friends. For 90 years, the British Legion has been caring, and that work, however challenging, goes on today.
It was October 2010 I received a phone call from Terry's long-term partner, Danielle. She was extremely distressed on the phone. She was crying and told me that basically we were a last chance.
I first joined the army in September 01 at the age of 16. It's just something I'd always wanted to do, and I've stayed in for 8 years.
He changed a lot when he come home from Afghanistan. He started drinking a lot. He weren't sleeping in, he was tossing and turning and sweating, and he said he was having nightmares but never said of what. One weekend he'd gone out with his friends and he didn't come home, he stayed out all night and he was drunk when he come home the day after. We had a big argument and I went back up to my mum's with kids and then he set fire and went and got in bed.
Terry sadly had tried to take his own life by burning down the house. The fireman went in and Terry pushed him away and just said, "No, I just want to go to bed. I want to go to sleep."
I was gutted that they'd got to me in time. That's the way I thought at the time.
The first time I met Terry was actually in prison. I went to visit him while he was on remand. I wanted to get a feel of Terry, what support he needed. Straight away I thought, I'm wondering this is post-traumatic stress disorder. So we made a referral to Combat Stress.
Bad stuff happened when I was out in Afghanistan, but at the time you don't think anything of it. It's just that's just your job, it's your day-to-day routine.
With the house having some damage, we got Danielle a new home and we helped furnish. We didn't want to see them homeless. I also attended Terry's court day and sadly he got sentenced to 2 years in prison. But he put an appeal in immediately and we got Combat Stress to put in medical reports and his sentence got halved.
British Legion's helped me, they've helped Terry, they've helped Cameron and Ola. They've been really, really good.
Without the British Legion, I wouldn't be the person I am today because I wouldn't have had the help that I've had. They just made me and my family better and stronger, really.
Here's 40 shillings on the drum for those who volunteer to come to list and fight the foe today over the hills and far away. O'er the hills and o'er the main, through Flanders, Portugal and Spain, King George commands and we obey, over the hills and far away.
Yes, our thanks, as always, to the band of Her Majesty's Royal Marines and to Alfie Boe, who sang earlier. Now, when the Legion's leaders considered their task 90 years ago, they realised that supporting the families of those who'd lost a loved one was one of their most urgent priorities. And over the course of the past 9 decades, that hasn't changed. So as we prepare to welcome the relatives and war widows to the festival in this 40th anniversary year of the War Widows Association, let us hear Emily's story.
When I first met Daniel, it was like fireworks, really. Butterflies were going in your stomach. I fell pregnant in May 2010. And so when Daniel flew to Afghanistan, it was a very hard day for all of us. And luckily they let him go home earlier, as I was going into labour quite early. He had tears in his eyes when he saw him, but so proud, you know, ringing everyone.
I was the same age, 27, when I had Dan, so I could see a great future ahead for all of them together, and hoped, obviously, that he'd have as great a time with his son as I did with him.
Daniel was at home for 12 days after Logan was born. The last goodbye was very difficult, but he felt he needed to be there with his friends and colleagues. Last thing he did say to me was, you know, I love you, and I'll be home in 6 weeks' time, so don't worry.
On the 16th of March, whilst they was out on patrol, they came under heavy contact. As they was started moving back in, we heard the explosion. Seconds after, we heard on the radio, contact IED, which means somebody's hit. He was a double amputee and he had a weak pulse. Well, I was devastated.
He flew back to Birmingham Hospital. He did get to hold Logan one last time, and then he later on passed away.
I'd like Dan to be remembered as the fun-loving guy, the prankster that he was. Yeah, just a great son.
He was a great guy, a great friend of mine, one of the best soldiers that myself and I think nobody in the company would disagree with me has worked with.
I always know he's beside me, and he's watching me, and he's watched our little boy, so I know he's always there.
And tonight Emily Pryor is accompanied by Daniel's father Ian. They're followed by Emily's father and by Daniel's mother Jill. Among the group is Yvonne Cameron, whose husband Alan from the 1st Battalion Scots Guards died in March this year of injuries sustained in Afghanistan 11 months earlier. A very warm welcome for the relatives of war widows and the Albert Hall. Remembrance Sunday last year, Ranger Aaron McCormick was killed while clearing an area of roadside bombs in Helmand. He was 22. His mother, Margaret McCormick, is here today. And Elizabeth Chapman is here with daughters Chloe and Georgina. Lieutenant Commander Darren Chapman was killed in Iraq in 2006.
December 4th was a really bad weather day, probably the worst weather day that we had. We were on shift as part of the immediate response team. Unfortunately, our worst fear happened. We had a shout at night.
We received a call to go out to a gentleman who was a member of the Afghan National Police Force who had been significantly injured.
It was very, very bad. We had no moon, so the night vision goggles were not working, so we couldn't see the ground. It was very, very difficult flying. I've never flown anything as difficult.
We picked up the casualty, and then the Joint Tactical Air Controller told us that there was another casualty needed to be picked up 2 miles to the southwest of Sangin.
And he had sustained injuries to his face. He could potentially have had quite significant problems or loss of sight.
We weren't sure if we could do it.
The visibility was getting worse and worse. I was just progressing up the valley wall. Suddenly the height reduced, and at 70 feet I just saw the ground rushing to the aircraft, and we just narrowly missed a ridge that we couldn't see.
On the climb out we lost complete visual with the ground, so decided to go back to Bastion.
As we went back, we were already formulating a plan on how we're going to get back into the area.
On the approach, the visibility was so bad that we actually came to the north of Sangin, so inside Sangin town itself.
We were directly behind a place called Wombat Wood, which is a place that used to be used by the insurgents, so really the wrong place to be. We picked up the casualty and then returned to Bastion.
It was only on returning back to Bastion when we actually heard the significant sighs of relief that we'd got back safely that we realised the gravity of the situation we'd been encountering.
Your experience, your training helped you deal with it, and you achieved it, and the result is you brought someone home.
Frenchie's been awarded the Air Force Cross. It's very well deserved. It makes me feel immensely proud that I was part of that loop and part of that crew.
And having celebrated the distinguished history of the Royal Air Force over the years, please welcome Flight Lieutenant Frenchie Duncan, DFC, AFC, accompanied by one of the few, Squadron Leader Geoffrey Wellham, DFC. Few institutions in the United Kingdom have a record of unbroken service spanning more than 3 centuries, and none is as distinguished probably as the Royal Hospital, Chelsea, home to the men and women in scarlet. The Royal Hospital has been renewed and equipped to meet the needs of the veterans of the 21st century. And tonight, flanked by serving members of the Army, the Chelsea pensioners take their place at this festival, and they always enjoy the warmest of welcomes.
Michael Funnell, at 83, is the eldest in pensioner tonight. Served in the Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers in the Second World War. Marjorie Cole is the third woman to become a Chelsea pensioner, joined in 2009. And among them too, 82-year-old John Eggleton, who's been an in-pensioner for the past 9 years after an army service spanning 22 years.
Improvised explosive devices are the biggest killer of both our troops and Afghans. My soldiers are the actual people who, once a device is found, will walk down to the device and make it safe.
I've always loved solving problems, and a bomb is just a problem that I need to find the answer to.
A task could take anything up to, 2 hours to 6 hours. It all depends. You don't know what to expect, because things can change dramatically from 1 second to the next. So you've just got to be prepared at all times for the worst. If we can do 1 IED a day, it's potentially save 1 person that day. So that's the motivation that keeps you going.
Since 2006, the Counter Improvised Explosive Device Task Force have had 9 killed and 50 life-change injuries. As a regiment, we've had 6 killed with 10 life-change injuries. As a small community, we feel that. The last fatality within the regiment was 19th of April, Captain Lisa Head. She died in Afghanistan, dealing with a complex and tricky group of explosive improvised devices.
Lisa was incredibly bubbly. She was the life and soul of a party. She was just an amazing person.
I have immense pride with my soldiers. I think they do
an amazing job every day of the year. All of my operators will have known someone who has passed away, has died doing the job, and it's a job they love doing. But it still doesn't stop them.